What if I told you that procrastination isn't actually a character flaw? That it's not about being lazy, but about a deep, ancient part of your brain trying to protect you? What if it's just a survival mechanism that's gone a little haywire in our modern world? Today, we're going to unlock why we put things off and how to gently and effectively start to reclaim our focus. This right here, this question gets to the very heart of it, doesn't it? It's a paradox that so many of us feel so deeply. You know, that strange, frustrating logic of choosing the growing anxiety of delay over the simple relief of just getting it done. Well, that feeling is exactly what we're going to unpack together. So here's the journey we're going to take. First, we'll look at the paradox itself. Then we'll dive into the battle happening inside your brain. We'll uncover the true cost of putting things off, explore a powerful formula for motivation, and finally, we'll build a practical toolkit you can start using, well, right away. All right, let's start by clearing the air. Procrastination has very, very little to do with managing your time or not having enough willpower. The real story is actually much more interesting and a lot more human. You know, if you've ever felt like you're the only one stuck in this loop, just take a second to look at this number. 1 in every 5 adults. That's a huge number of people who would call themselves chronic procrastinators. So, no, you are absolutely not alone in this. Now, let's really look at this definition, because the words here are so important. The key word is voluntary. It's a choice. You know you'll be worse off, more stressed, more rushed, but you do it anyway. That's the paradox. It's not just passively letting time slip by, it's an active, though often subconscious, decision to do something else instead. So if it's not laziness, then what on earth is actually going on? Well, to answer that, we need to peek behind the curtain and see the two sides of our brain that are constantly at war with each other. This right here is the single most important idea we're going to talk about. For years, we've tried to fix this with apps, calendars, and to-do lists. But the real reason we delay isn't about managing our time. It's about avoiding negative feelings. And here are the two players in that internal battle. On one side, you've got your limbic system. Think of it as your inner toddler. It's ancient, it's powerful, and it just wants to feel good right now. On the other side is your prefrontal cortex, the adult in the room. It thinks about the future, about goals. Procrastination is simply what happens when the toddler has a tantrum and the adult gives in. So think about a task you've been putting off. Maybe it makes you feel bored or anxious or just plain confused. To your ancient limbic system, that feeling of discomfort is a threat, just like a predator in the wild. And its one and only job is to get you away from that threat and towards safety, which today looks a lot like scrolling through your phone or watching another episode of that show you like. So what are these modern-day threats that send our brains into a panic? And what is the real damage that's being done when we keep choosing to run and hide? As you look at this list, just be honest with yourself for a moment. Do any of these sound familiar? Each one of these is an emotion, a feeling that your limbic system wants to protect you from. The fear that you might not do it well, the anxiety that it has to be perfect, the sheer dread of a boring task. These are the triggers. And the fallout from constantly delaying things, well, it's not just about a missed deadline. Look at this. The biggest chunk of the damage, 40%, lands squarely in our personal lives. It's the stress, the guilt, the constant low-level anxiety. And a full quarter of it actually shows up in our physical health. This isn't just a productivity problem, it's a well-being problem. Okay, so we've really dug into the why. Now let's pivot to the how. And it all starts with understanding motivation not as some mystical force, but as something we can actually understand and even influence. It sounds a little strange, right? But imagine if you could actually diagnose your lack of motivation like a mechanic diagnoses an engine problem. Well, there's a powerful theory in psychology that lets us do exactly that. Okay, I know, this looks like something from a math class you tried to forget. But trust me, the idea here is beautifully simple. Everything on top of the line increases your motivation. Everything on the bottom kills it. To beat procrastination, all we need to do is make the top number bigger and the bottom number smaller. That's it. Let's break it down. Expectancy is simple. It's your confidence that you can actually do the task. Value is how much you care about the reward. Those are the good guys up top. Down below, you have impulsiveness, how easily you get distracted, and delay, which is how far away the reward feels. The bigger the delay, the bigger that bottom number gets, and the more your motivation just evaporates. So enough with the theory. Let's make this real. We're going to look at specific, proven tools that are designed to hack that very equation in your favor and just get you started. This technique is famous for a reason, and now you know exactly why it works. It's a direct attack on the delay variable. You're not trying to finish a huge project. Your only goal is to work for 25 minutes. The task feels smaller, and the reward, that guilt-free break, is immediate. It makes it so much easier to just begin. And here are a few more. Breaking a huge task into tiny steps, that boosts your expectancy, your belief that you can do it. The 2-minute rule gives you quick, easy wins, and self-compassion is absolutely crucial. Beating yourself up just creates more of those negative feelings your brain is trying to escape. Forgiving yourself actually breaks the cycle. And finally, think of your future self as a real person, a friend you're trying to help. It makes the value of doing something now much more real. We usually think we need to feel motivated before we can start. This ideal flips that completely on its head. The simple act of starting, even in the tiniest possible way, is what actually creates the feeling of motivation. Action is the spark, not the other way around. Let's be realistic. The goal here isn't to become some kind of productivity robot that never puts anything off. That's not human. The goal is to understand our own minds, to be aware of what's happening, and to have the right tools ready for when we need them. It's about progress, not about perfection. So I'll just leave you with this one thought. Not a giant project, not a life-changing goal, just one small thing. Maybe it's something that would take less than 2 minutes. What is one tiny action you could take right now that your future self, the you of tomorrow morning, would be grateful for?